Thanks, guys, for joining for the call today. So I'm Pranay. I'm one of the maintainers at SigNoz. I have with me Srikant, who is like one of the lead engineers who has worked on SigNoz. So broadly, the agenda of this call is to give you a quick demo of the metrics query builder, which we built in release 9.1, and answer any questions from the community if there's anything, right? So we will go ahead with like a set of demos which we have planned, and feel free to add any questions in the Zoom chat, and we'll take them as we finish a session, like a part of the talk, or we'll take it at the end of the call, right? Cool. So this is broadly the agenda of the talk. So first we'll talk about what is metrics query builder and why did we build it. Then Srikant will show you a demo of how you can monitor your own host metrics and how query builder makes it simple for you. And then we'll have a quick demo around how you can monitor your application metrics also, and how you can again use query builder to implement it very easily. And then we will open up for questions. So first things first, so what is query builder and why did we build it, right? So before query builder, we had support of PromQL to write metrics queries, and people would need to write raw PromQL queries to plot any sort of metrics in SigNoz, right? What we realized that many people were having difficulty in trying to figure out how to write the PromQL, and people who are not from the Prometheus ecosystem would sort of often make like find it very difficult to write it in correct way, right? So that's where we started to start giving thought to how we can make this simpler, and that's where we sort of started making it a very drop down and easy to use query builder, which is the result what you're seeing now. The idea is that
Pranay, do you mind showing us an example of PromQL, just to get in context, like
sure,
where we were and where we got to?
Sure. Let me share my.
I think we have it in our dashboard too. Again.
Yeah, so a simple PromQL language would be something like, so you can write any PromQL here, like if you want to plot any metrics like so you can start, and if you run this, you start plotting graphs like that. So this is just a metric, but you can write many things, right? Like where, etc., and how you can add conditions there. So maybe we'll cover that in the demo more deeply. Yeah, so in the query builder, what we have built now is, so if you go to dashboards today, suppose you want to build a graph based on this metrics. Let me sort of give you a name of this graph. So metrics query builder demo. You can add tags here, for example, whatever, like demo. And then you can add panels here. So here you can plot two types of things, either time series or a single value. If you select time series, here you can choose any metric name, and based on that, it will plot it now. For example, suppose I want to plot system file system users, right, which is shows how much file system is used. So you can just use this as a no-op. So no-op will give you like all the levels which are present. So if you just run it like that, we get all sort of labels which are shipped with the metric. And then you can filter it based on like any of the labels you want. For example, you want to suppose filter based on cloud availability zone, right? So you can just type cloud availability zone, select in. So there are like different type of operators here. So as you add a where clause here and then do a stage run query, the metrics here gets filtered based on that. And then now you can do, if you want to do any sort of aggregation, you can filter based on that. So suppose you want to group by host name. I think the one point you need to keep in mind that if you are doing any group by aggregation here, you have to use some aggregation function here. So something like sum or count or rate sum or something like that. So if you do something like that, then it will group by, and then hence because you have grouped by based on host name, it filtered for a particular host name, right? And then we can format the legends to show it more clearly. So if I just type the label name here and do a stage run query, so you see the sum of file system users for this. And then you can give the unit here, which this is being plotted on. So this is generally on bytes. So we plot it here. So basically it shows the file system uses around 107 GB, right? And then we can put a title here. Files system uses, and then a description here. And if you save it, it will ask you to confirm that this is what you want to save. And this will be saved as a graph, right? So this is a simple example, but it shows you like the power of query builder. So you can show any metrics, filter based on the available labels, and then group by and run any sort of aggregation. So you have lots of aggregations functions which are available here. You have standard functions like sum, average, max, min. Then you have different type of percentiles. These are generally very useful for latency buckets. And then other type of aggregation function like rate sum, rate average, etc. Right? Now we also support different queries. So you can, in the same panel, you can write multiple queries and create formulas based on that, right? So suppose if you want to again write a different query here and maybe do a similar, let's just do the same operation but on a different availability zone or something. I think there's only one, so let's just do the same thing. Maybe just group by device. I don't think this query makes much sense, but let's just plot. Okay, this unexpected and the top section. But broadly, the idea is that you can create multiple queries. So if you can create A and B, and then in the query, you can do A by B or run many sort of mathematical operations. That should be able to plot a graph here, right? So going back to the slides, we support multiple queries here. You can do different in and like operations for filtering. You can create formula based on multiple queries. And Srikant will take like few examples on how to use them. And you can also use different sort of multiple operations on these formulas like log, log2, or like there are like list of operations which are available in your docs, which you can use to combine multiple queries, right? And then we also support different. So there are 3 tabs. So the idea is that query builder will be used by anybody who is just coming to the platform. But if somebody is more advanced, they can use the native ClickHouse query to write the exact query that they can want, and it can be very involved. And if somebody is more familiar with PromQuery, they can write the exact PromQuery query, right? So I think this gives us any user who is coming to SigNoz to be able to add queries on like at their level of comfort. If they are just starting out, they can use the query builder to start writing simple queries. As they get more familiar or they have background in writing SQL queries, they can write ClickHouse queries. And if they're coming from a Prometheus ecosystem, they can write PromQL queries, right? So that's like just a quick intro of where this is come, like what users can do from that. And to take now specific examples, I'll let Srikant share his screen and then give you demos on like how you can monitor your host metrics with that, and then how you can monitor your application metrics. Srikant, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, thanks. Let me share my screen.
Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in chat. We can take that after the Srikant session.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So like let's say like in a let's say you like somebody complaining that they're seeing some errors on your app. So what do you do in a typical case? Like you would be interested in, hey, like what's the overall system health, like how are the systems are performing, right? There are two important things that you would go look at it, like how are my resources are like what's the percentage of resources is the error happening because of like there are not enough resources, or like if there are enough resources, or if something else is the reason, right? So that's where the host metrics come in. You first look at the like what's the how resource utilization and the things around it, and then once you think that hey, like there is enough resources that I can see that there is no error there, and then you look at the go look at the application metrics. Say like if you build an application with certain scale in mind, let's say this application is built with the assumption that we will be receiving X number of requests per second, but there is some unusual load. Is it because of failing or slowing down? Is it because of that? There you can go look at the host metrics. So we will go through like how you could achieve it with the SigNoz query builder, right? So let me go create one of the dashboards. We'll pick this one. Let's say you want to look at the CPU utilization for a system, right? So let me add a new panel, time series, CPU utilization. And so you want to look at what's the rate of change of like CPU utilization, like average change in that. So you go look at it, pick the aggregation rate average. We are interested in looking at the CPU system, like how much time is spent the CPU time. We pick the metric name system CPU time. We are interested in looking at the usage, like it's not something state should not be in idle case. So we can do that by the where class here, where you can pick the state. So everything is fine except the idle state. So system CPU time must not be in the idle state. Pick that, and
so now it should be not in, right?
Sorry, not in. Yeah, sorry. Not in ideal, right? And you want to look at it, what's the value, like you want to look at the values by each state. So here, sorry, state. So if we run it, you will see that there is value. So, but you are interested in looking at the value by group by, like this is a combined aggregation, that value that you are seeing. But if you are interested in, let's say, look at the group by, you select the state, and then if you run it, so this is the like how much system CPU time spent in each state. Like there is a user, there's a wait time, there's interrupt like 0, and then steal time. So different sort of system CPU states. So this is the graph that you're looking at. Like this is not really high. So when you come and look at it, hey, system CPU utilization is fine. So you know that this is not the issue. So like you save that, and let's say if you want to look at it, like you want to keep a dashboard so that engineers can look at it, you can save it, and then it will be there. Let's say you want to look at the disk saturation, like what would that be? So let's go look. Let's create a new panel, time series. We're interested in system disk weighted. Yeah. So this metric is basically, so some operations are not taken up by disk yet. So they spend waiting for some time before they get processed, right? So what's the rate of change of that value? You look at it, and then let's say if you plot it, you will see that there's a chart there. But let's say if you're only interested in one device, like you are interested in looking at the device, let's format it by device. Like the number of devices that you have, and then there's a values. So you see certain spike there. Like it's probably so for this device, there's a certain spike in there compared to what's there. Like but it's not really high. So when you see this reach to the 100%, you will know that completely saturated. Disk average wait time. And say, let's say could it be a network error or something like that? Like if you're seeing some issue, I look at the panel. Let's create the network errors. Let's see if that could be the what is the network error you're seeing. Network error, yeah, system network errors. Let's see like if there is an error at all. So you see that there are a number of resources that are sending the system network errors metrics, but they don't let's say if you're interested in looking at the certain host, let's see host name in some. Yeah, so this is sending two metrics, two time series, system network series. Like there are two devices. There's one device. There is one both direction, like receiving the network connections and then while responding back to the network connection. So you see that here. Let's say device. Let's format it. So if there were to be some error, like right now there are no network errors that you are seeing. Like if there were to be some error that are happening in this host, you would see value like in each direction. So what's the device, like in which direction? Let's say there's some issue with for particular device in transmitting it. You will see non-zero values here. So you can go network errors. So this is couple of ways you can do. You can pick the host metrics, like the number of these are a couple of examples that we are looking at, but you can do a lot more. Like there are a number of metrics. Like if you let's say if you go look at it, there's a file system usage, like as Pranay shown. There is a memory usage. Yeah, so the system memory usage, the container metrics, there are number of metrics that are there that you can send, and then you use the metric builder for it to do you can use number of aggregations, like whichever is appropriate for the metric that you are sending, right? So this is how you would use it. So how can you send these host metrics to the SigNoz? There are if you are already coming from from the Prometheus, let's say you already have your systems instrument, like your application instrument in Prometheus, you can enable in the open telemetry collector, you can enable the Prometheus receiver, and then it will handle it. Or let's say if you are brand new to the like the monitoring, you can do it. You can run the OpenTelemetry collector as an agent to, like, this is usually you do in Kubernetes like environments. Let's say your pod is running, you will run the another OpenTelemetry collector as a sidecar, which is collecting the host metrics and then sending it to the SigNoz collector. That's one way of doing it. And then if, let's say, if that deployment pattern is not something like running a sidecar is sometimes heavy for your deployment pattern, what you could do is you could use the SDK like OpenTelemetry programming, like each language has SDK. They also ship with the instrumentation which collects the host metrics and then send it as part of the instrumentation metrics. So that's another way of doing it. So there are a number of ways you can send it, and then SigNoz will accept it, and you can use them to plot the host metrics chart. Yeah, so that's the host metrics part. Does anyone have any questions on that, Fran? All right, I'll take that as a no. If we can go ahead with the chart. So let's see. Sorry. So that's host metrics. That's like you looking at the host metrics and they are looking fine. Now you are interested in let's say application metrics. Hey, like how what's the number of requests that my service is receiving? Like if it's receiving errors, like what is the number of errors that happening on my system? What's the average, like the latency, like average latency on my system, right? So that's like the application metrics part of it. How you could plot those metrics. We will look at them again. So when you send the data to SigNoz, like you are usually sending the there are number of signals that you can send it to the SigNoz. There are traces, there are metrics, there are logs, and then there's an upcoming signal events for the structured logging. So when you send the traces to the SigNoz, SigNoz has this processor, which is basically derives the metrics from the spans and then builds the metrics for you, which you can use to plot the number of application metrics. Like so there's a metric, that metric is called SigNoz calls total. Let's say that metric is there. What would request rate of request per service would look like? It's SigNoz total. You are interested in some rate of change for the request. You let's say we pick some service, let's say service name in front end, right? So you're basically looking at the, like, hey, for the front end service, what's the total number of rate of change of total number of calls that I'm receiving? You can plot it. Yeah, so you can see that, hey, if you look at the graph here, okay, 20, like it's ranging from the 20, there's a constant, like it's almost the constant number of requests that your service is receiving, like, around 20 number of requests. So this is how you do it by, like, for a particular service. Let's say you are not interested in particular service, you are interested in all the services, right? So let's get rid of this filter because we are interested in every single service, and then we are interested in looking at for each service. So you will pick the group by as a service name. So you will run it. Right. So now if you look at it, you see that there are a number of services that data, and then for each service there is a rate of request that it is receiving. For the plotting, to make it look like neat, let's format it. Right. Yeah, look at it. So there's a, like, this is how the requests are changed for each service. There are services with no requests at all. There are services with, like, front end we had seen earlier, like it was having something around 22 requests, and then customer, like route had 10 requests. So this is how you can use the query builder to plot the rate request rate per second. Okay, so I think following disconnected. Yeah. So you let's say what is like rate request per second per service say. Yeah, request per second is one of the metrics that a developer is interested in looking at. Like if there is some service which is using an unusual request which is not built for handling that scale, like or it had limitations that it can only handle, like you can come and look at the metrics and then see like if that's the bottleneck that's causing the anomalous behavior in your system. Or you are also interested in the let's say you're interested in looking at the duration, like what's the average latency taken for each service, right? So there are also metrics like when you send the spans data, so it uses the number of spans, like number of spans and span duration to generate these metrics, like processes those spans and then uses the collected information from the spans to build the metrics out of it, so that you can use it to achieve the number of things. Let's say if you're interested in looking at the average latency, right? So there are two different metrics. One is latency sum, latency count, number of requests. SigNoz latency sum. We are interested in looking at the rate so we are not interested in looking, let's say you are interested in looking at it for each service, so you go at group by service name and then let's look at it some rate. Now this is like SigNoz latency count, and this is also you should be doing it by the service name, because so now there's a latency sum, there's a latency count. So when you divide it by this metric, you will get the average latency. How could you achieve that? Like we have this ability to do add a formulas using these these pre-created queries. So I'm not interested in looking at the A, or I'm not interested in looking at the B. I'm only interested in looking at what is the average latency by per service, A by B. Right. So like if you look at it, so like there is a service name and then there's a certain value. Let's if you look at it, like there's a driver service which is having 205 milliseconds, and there is a Redis which is giving the data back in 15 milliseconds. So this is how you can look at the average latency per service. These are unusual. Like if this is at a constant level. If you have this chart built and then you see certain spec, let's say you made your all engineers to look at the charts every time, like they can, if there is some service which is having some unusual loads at times, you will be able to identify them. So this is latency for each service. And the milliseconds. Yeah, that's the latency metric. Or let's say if you're interested in looking at the like for particular service, what's the number of total errors per what's the total number of requests, like what's the error rate for for this service, right? You can again do like, so let's say if there is certain error, the status code will be set to error. You can use, so you have the number of attributes you generated, and then like each attribute in the time series indicates something. Like we looked at it, there is a service name, we were grouping by the service name. You can filter them and then you can also build whatever you are interested in. Let's say if we are interested in looking at the error rate, right? So SigNoz calls, this is all SigNoz calls totally is everything, but you are only interested in looking at the error rate. So we will pick the status code. We want the status code to be
we lost Srikant.
Total number of error calls, right? So
Srikant,
pick some service, like if you are interested in looking at the Is it fine now?
Srikant, I think we lost you for a bit.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit.
Yeah, so what I was saying is about the error rate. Like, let's say if you are interested in looking at the error rate for a service, right? So the span, like if some errors have occurred in that service, the spans will send us the status as a error. So you can like, so if you look at it, there are a number of attributes that are there. You can apply the filters and then you can derive the value from it. One of the ways, one of the things that you can do is error rate. How do you calculate the error rate? Like number of error calls by total number of calls. So first, I'm interested in looking at the rate of change of SigNoz calls total. The error calls, the error ones. Let's say if I'm interested in particular service, let's say service name, let's say in let me pick Redis or something. Yeah, let me pick Redis. So this if I just plot this, I will have some metric. So this is the number of error calls. This is just the number of error calls. How do you get the error rate? You divide it by the total number of calls. So let's use another query, which is again this SigNoz calls total for this. So this chart is plotting the ones which with the status code error, but we are looking at the error rate. So this one, so A by B, like you need A by B. So this must be including all of them for the service, right? So service name in Redis. So this will give you the total number of calls. So you have A, you have B, right? So once you divide, like there are, like if you look at it, there are two around 3 error calls, and then out of total 12 calls. When you you can go to the formula part and then you can see A by B. So this will give you the error rate. You can use the formula part. Like now I'm not interested in looking at the total error calls or the individual calls. I'm only interested in looking at the error rate. You can hide this, and then formula is we want it to be visible when you run it. So you have the values like 0.1. That's like 10% of the requests in my total requests around are error ones. So you will go look at if these errors are affecting the users or not. So that's one of the another important metric that a developer interested in looking at when they are debugging the service.
You may also change y-axis.
Yeah. Yeah, so around this percentage of metric, like calls are totally error. This is this is not something that since this is a data for the demo purposes, it's there. Like if ideally you would want it to be 0 or at certain threshold. Yeah, so you will look at it like there's a full dashboard for you now. There's a latency, latency for, by service, error rate for particular, like you can modify this to be error rate for each service. There's a number of requests processed for each service, and then there is a network errors, disk average, disk wait time, and the CPU utilization. So you have everything here. Like you see. Let's say if you come and if you are trying to debug something, you will come here and see, hey, is my are my resources having some problem, or let's say are my applications are having some problem. Let's say if you find something here to be yeah, so once you know that this will give you the with this host metrics and application metrics, the overall how the systems are behaving. Once you figure out that let's say you find something odd in one of the services, so now the hey, like you need to further drill down. So hypothetically, let's say that something is having issues, and then you go to the traces tab, like from metrics, the overall health of the system, and then you go to the traces tab, and then you this is like has lot of it will help you to try to debug right? So you can go pick, one of the, like, let's say from the metrics, that, one of the services having the issue, you come here and then you pick metric, let's say, driver is having issues, and you can drill down. So this is how, like, if you were to try to debug your systems, how can you use SigNoz? Like, you look at the overall state, you find something to be odd, and then you now need to drill down, right? So now you come to the traces, like from the metrics tab, you come to the traces tab, and then you drill down. So this is how you can make use of the SigNoz to troubleshoot your systems and then observe. Yeah, that's
Cool. So thanks, Srikant. I think we have a couple of questions. You want to take them? From
yeah, sure.
Zoom,
Let
Zoom
me
chat?
yeah let me give me okay give me a second. Sorry, what's the difference between these and the one you get out of the box and the services tab? Yeah, so in the services tab, you have very limited information. So that is by service, and then you have the number values, but it is very, so that is same that you can do in the metrics tab, and then you can do more. So this is giving the overall picture, and then you can go on the, let's say you have certain requirements that you want to you want to filter something, or you want to look at the particular service. Let's say in the overall patch, it's giving you everything, right? So let's look at the average. Like, let's say there's a look at, if you want to look at the total number of counts, or total the average, like what you see in the service tab is like P95 is there, and then error is there, and then request per second is there. But the let's say if you're interested in something other than P99, let's say if you are interested in P 50% or something, you cannot do it there. So that's where you can go, and then you can do more, like which is like those you see in the services tab is something which is built on top of it.
Got it.
Yeah. How high is too high? Meaning, how will I know if there is some issue with my graph? If you are a developer, you know that, like, once you deploy your system, if you are a developer, you know typically how much does it consume. Let's say if you deploy some services, one of your services, you can see on average, you will observe, like, under certain load, this system is expected to be consuming this much of resources, right? So you would, like, before you deploying it to the production, you would see, like, you would benchmark, and you would see how much, like, what is the typical under this load, what is the system resource usage. So that's how you set how you look at the values. Let's say under, like, on a typical day, you expect the CPU resource used to be around 50%. If you see something other than 50%, that's a issue. Or if you see, like, there's a sudden spike for some reason. Let's say if you're observing it for a whole day, and then your typical usage is around 20%, but at certain interval of duration, if it's spiked at 80%, there is something anomalous has happened. So that's how you know, like, you know if there was an issue or not.
Okay, so currently there is no like a system of knowing there is a threshold line or a green zone or a red zone or a yellow zone. There is no such thing as of now.
No, there is no such capability where you can customize the, like, color of the, but there is a way, like, if you are not so in the dashboard page, that's not there, but in the alerts page, you can in the alert systems, you have such capability where it will look at this, it runs these queries, and then if it exceeds certain thresholds, it will send the alerts to number of channels.
Yeah, thank you, Srikant.
In the dashboard, it's possible to import JSON. If JSON can be exported also, I would love to get my hands on those for the testing. Maybe it is. Yeah, you can do that. Like, there's a export import feature in the dashboard.
I think Jayan is asking if we can export the current which you created. Is that what you want, Jayan?
Yeah, they can do that as well. Like, it's so if you're
sorry. What I would like is to have some JSON files I can import in my own SigNoz installation, so I can experiment with it. Because now it seems very, very powerful, but it's quite overwhelming for me.
Got it. So I think we had some JSON files which we had. Srikant, do you remember? I think Prashant had created some JSON files which can be exported, right?
Can you?
Yeah. So we.
Yeah, Pranay. Can you
Uh,
check the tutorial section, Pranay? It's there in the Kubernetes.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
there.
metrics.
yeah, I think.
So this is for Kubernetes, but what Srikant did
Oh,
now,
sorry.
I don't think we have JSON for that. So this is for like host metrics on for a Kubernetes cluster. We can get that.
Yeah. Jan, are you on Kubernetes or are you running on like VMs?
Sorry, once more.
Are you for running your applications? Are you using Kubernetes or you are running virtual machines?
Sorry, I am using Ubuntu with Docker Engine. That is what I am using.
Got
Does
it.
that answer your question?
Yeah. So
Ubuntu with Docker Engine.
yeah. So I think it's a virtual machine. So I think we have JSONs for Kubernetes, but we don't have JSON for Ubuntu. But I think it should be simple to create. Let me check.
Yeah, so there is also like not just the Kubernetes. I think you can also, there's also a way to get the host metrics. Like there, we have a script which can help you to achieve the same. But not, since the application metrics are custom, they cannot be. There's no script around that, but you can run the you can get the node metrics.
Srikant, can you elaborate?
No problem. I think I
Yeah.
have to go down the rabbit hole and dive in. That's a whole.
No, Jan, that's what you have asked is actually new to distributed logging. I thought precise info is written in the HTTP headers. How can things like system CPU time be monitored? So, Srikant, can you elaborate on like the hotel collector? So, host metrics is enabled on those machines where SigNoz is installed or hotel collector is installed, right? So, can you elaborate on that, Srikant, a bit?
Yeah. So host metrics, it is not automatically collected. So if you it's actually, you should actually using the hotel collector as a standalone, like a signal. When you are running in a general deployment, you are running the signals on one of the VMs, and then there are a number of VMs that you want to monitor. So how can you get the host metrics from this number of systems that are running your application, right? One of the ways that you can do is run the hotel collector on each of the, so they are referred as nodes, like run the OpenTelemetry collector on each of these, and then each of them export the data to the SigNoz collector. Like SigNoz is enabled to receive these metrics. So these collectors that are running as an agent on the nodes collect the host metrics on each of the instances and then send it to the SigNoz collector. That's one way of doing it. Let's say you already have these systems instrumented with the Prometheus, like you are using one of the exporter, like node exporter is there from the Prometheus ecosystem. Let's say you already have the system enabled. Other like in such cases, what you can do is you can configure the SigNoz OpenTelemetry collector to receive the data from these Prometheus node exporter running on these VMs. That's if you are coming from the Prometheus ecosystem. Otherwise, let's say if you do not want to run the OpenTelemetry collector on these individual instances, like that's a heavy, like it's a separate process running, right? Heavy for you. In such cases, what you can do is you can make use of the SDK, which is you are already using to create the spans. You can use that, and you can use one of the instrumentation, which is Postmetrics instrumentation, that can also send the data to the SigNoz collector. And then like three different ways of how you can send the data to SigNoz.
Okay, then I have one more question. Well, at least I have more, but this is the first one. Our microservices are running at Google, as in we have App Engine and we have Cloud Run microservices. Does it mean that we have to include the OTL collector on each of our services, or?
Yeah, so that's right. So that this deployment pattern is not very common if you are running it on a virtual machines, right? So let's say these are very common, like as a sidecar deployment is very common in Kubernetes environments. If you are running it on a like Google Cloud services, like number of using the Google Compute to deploy on VMs, you must already be using the OpenTelemetry SDKs for the instrumentation, right? You can, so there is also SDK, like in the country repos, you will be able to find a host matrix instrumentation, like Go has it, and then Python has it, Java has it, JS has it, like all of these have an instrumentation which is specifically designed to collect the host metrics and send them as a part of your application, like and how you would send the traces. That's you can do that as well. Like, you do not have to run the open telemetry collector on each of them. You can just enable this instrumentation, which will do the same for you.
Jan, was it clear?
Okay, thanks. It's a lot of information, but I try to digest it all. That's all
So
I can say.
Can you clarify on the your infrastructure setup again? You are saying you have different virtual machines which are running on Google Cloud. And
No. Sorry. For testing, I have a virtual machine for testing out the SigNoz program. Our microservices, they run on Google, and we are using App Engine and we are using Cloud Run. That is our setup at the moment.
Okay, you are running everything on the Cloud Run.
Cloud Run and App Engine.
Correct.
Not totally sure how you can. So what SDK are you using? Like which language SDK? Like which language?
Oh yeah, sorry. We are using Java, and we are using Micronaut. That is our framework for creating our microservices.
Yeah, this requires some specific knowledge about the Google Cloud, and should be able to still send the data outside of it. But yeah, I wish we had some person with that expertise that could help you with it. You can ping it in the community channel. Let me see one of
I think Jan, it would be great if you can ask in the community, because somebody else may have more understanding on this.
Okay, so I have to ask my question in the SigNoz Slack, and then in general, or in support, or where?
You can ask in has support.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool,
sorry. Then I have to. Okay. How do I pronounce your name? Because I will. It will not sound nice. So how do you pronounce your name?
I am Pranay and
okay.
Srikant. Okay. Like Srikant, you can spell, like, pronounce your name.
Yeah, it's Srikant. Like, there's a guy named Kant, right? Philosopher, right? Srikant.
Okay, I will try to remember, because we are from different countries, and you will not pronounce my name correctly, and I will for sure not pronounce your names correctly. So that is why I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. Cool, guys. Thanks a lot for joining in. I think we're already out of time, so we'll also post the recording of this session like before the Q&A, and so that you can refer this later also. And we have a Slack community also, so feel free to join. People who are interested in contributing, join the hash contributing channel. And people, if you have questions on like how to run SigNoz or any general questions, you can ask in support channel or in general channel.
Okay,
So,
perfect. Thank you. Thank
cool.
you a lot, guys.